Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Southern Dirt. My name is Summer, and in this video I'll be giving you a walkthrough of our Central Florida Zone 9 garden. Recently we had some pretty tough temperatures, slipping way low down into about 25 degrees and holding for a couple hours for a few nights straight. Now joining us, I did put together a series of what to plant and when. I will put that link in the description below. I did the series last year of every month what you can plant for Zone 9A and Zone 9B. So hopefully that series can help you become a better gardener, as I learned along the way as well. You can also see what I actually planted into my garden month by month to ensure that I had some harvest throughout the entire year. I'm also putting a new series together this year, which is going over all of our fruit trees on the farm. I give you a monthly tour, which I'll be uploading here in the next couple of days, so look for that. And I do have a seed starting and propagation class coming up this Saturday, so I'd like to welcome you guys here on our property. I'll be actually working in the garden with you and giving you some tips on starting seeds. You'll actually go home with a whole tray of seeds to start your own little mini garden or add to the garden that you already have. And if you want to get more details on those workshops, you can check out my website, which will be in the description below. All right guys, so it's been about a few weeks since the last freeze we had. We've definitely got a lot of damage, and I'm going to go over all that with you. Our Queen's wreath got hit pretty well. All the edges of it, you can see, had got frostbite. But the good thing is we already have new growth coming all over the place. So this has been a real hardy vine, and I'll have some more in our backyard barn I can show you with some new growth also. So over here is our Vego garden beds that I've been really enjoying. I actually have some space for an extra one as I get a little bit more money in my pocket. I do plan on getting another one here. But I've already can tell a difference from the items that I am growing in my Vego raised beds compared to my in-ground beds that I've had for about 7 years now, building up soil over here. And this garden bed I've had for about 6 to 5 years. Over here we expanded, but I already can tell a difference from just containing my soil and keeping all of my nutrients in these garden beds. So if you are interested in purchasing these garden beds, they have a 20-year warranty and all kinds of other great things. I am putting a video together of how I put these together and why I chose these beds, but you can save 5% in the description below. I have a referral link. But we do have some spinach I recently planted. A lot of our lettuce went to seed recently because of the extreme heat that we had, and then we had the fluke super cold weather. So I did go ahead and replant. I've got some Bonnie spinach, some romaine lettuce. These I bought from the store. When we started this garden originally, about 99% of the seeds and plants were started from seeds, for the exception of my GreenStalk garden. I just kind of wanted an extra or a quick gratification with that, so I went ahead and purchased plants and put that together. And I do, if you notice, have some new GreenStalk gardens, which I'll show you what I planted in those. So I went ahead and just replanted this area here, and I've got my curly kale, we've got regular dinosaur kale, and some collard greens. We've got Beets varieties. Now I have not been spraying my garden at all for bugs, but you can tell that I've got some problems here. We've just been so busy as a family. I had 3 children raising animals for our local 4-H fair. And if you've ever raised any animals for the fair, you know that there's lots of work involved in that. We've been vacationing, and I thought I would just breeze through and show you that even though you have a busy lifestyle and you've children that are involved in a lot of things, you can still have a thriving garden. If you just, over here we've got some mint and basil. We did cover our basil. I have most all my basil in pots, so I was able to bring those in and cover. I do need to trim some back. These have been so great now that I have water hooked up to them. They do love water. I was never successful with growing basil because I wasn't watering them enough. So they do like a lot of water. Over here we've got our shooting star eggplant. We planted this a couple years ago. It did get a little frostbite even though we did cover it, but all we did was trim off a little bit. You can already see some new growth on these. Over here we have what's called purple potted peas, and they have been doing really great. They're really pretty. We've got these purple pods with green peas in them. Sometimes you'll get a variegated one once in a while. These are actually ready. I'm going to go ahead and pick these. But our kids absolutely love these. Look at these flowers right here. So over here, you can definitely tell how our kale is doing. This is called Siberian kale compared to my Siberian kale in the garden. I'll show you that. See how luscious green these are and big, and they're just beautiful. They're doing awesome in this bed. We've got some purple cabbage. I've got my celery in here. This is my old bok choy plant. I have bent it over and laid it here. I am doing that because I want to save the seeds from this variety. It just was probably my best variety of bok choy that I grew. So I'm just laying this over and allowing these seeds to dry out. I recently had some bok choy in here and replaced it with some curly kale. And my carrots are doing great. I never thin my carrots. I want to get better at doing this. The seeds are just so small. And what we do throughout the season, my kids will just come through and pick carrots early, which then actually ends up thinning them. And we get to kind of have some fun through the season harvesting carrots. I do have some onions here. I did have some cauliflower in here, but I think this kale is kind of taken over. We're just gonna leave it and see what it does. Tomatoes growing here that are doing really well and healthy. I recently purchased these little clips, little plant clips from the Dollar Tree. I wanted to see how they did. And they're working out pretty good. So far as the plant is small, I haven't had any issues. They're definitely cheaply made, but for $1, you got like a whole pack. So those were a nice addition just to try them, to show you guys if they actually worked or not. I could go through and prune these, but I just have not had the time. Over here we have my original GreenStalk garden that's still doing really well. I had some tomatoes in here. I got a smaller variety that just didn't do as well. It is producing, but I recently found a short stacked tomato at Lowe's, and this one is supposed to stay very small. It says like 10 to 12 inches high is what it typically gets. So we're gonna see how this does in the GreenStalk garden. I've been trying different varieties of tomatoes in this GreenStalk just to see how they do, but I think this might be our ticket right here. I have different varieties of flowers. I got succulents, herbs, my peppers. My peppers did so well in the GreenStalk that I decided to put more peppers in the GreenStalks I recently bought. I'll get to that in a minute. But they've grown better in my GreenStalk than in my ground, where I have trouble with nematodes and just all kinds of other issues. So we also have, here's another pepper plant that's doing great. Some more herbs, kale, collards, and a variety of different things here. Most all of these succulents were propagated from an original grouping of plants that I bought. Actually, my husband, I think, bought for me for Mother's Day. And I have just been propagating from there. These I bought on clearance at Lowe's. And anytime you ever want to try to find something inexpensive, Lowe's, sometimes Walmart will have a clearance section, and you can get really nice plants there. Even though there's nothing wrong with them, they're half off because they're holiday themed, or they just need to move them out for whatever reason. So I got beautiful pots, beautiful succulents that I could propagate from, which I'm already doing, and at a super cheap price. So we're gonna move on to these planters. I'm gonna show you what I've got here. If you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I used to have a tower garden that was gifted to me that I had over in the center here, and I did have strawberries in it. Well, my strawberries would never do well because the way that tower was built, it didn't have a special watering system in it. Well, now that I purchased the GreenStalk garden, what we do is we fill the top up with water, and it evenly distributes water through the entire vertical garden. So I'm getting the right amount of water to all my plants, whereas my other one, you would just water from the top and it just kind of dripped down into the other ones. The problem was the ones up top would get enough water and the ones on the bottom wouldn't. So this is just the perfect solution if you're wanting to garden in a small space, or if you're not yet gardening and you want to give it a try. These are great products that you can purchase. They're not really expensive. They're American made. And typically when you order, you can receive them in just a few days. I will put a link in the description where you can save $10 off your order with my promo code SD10. So here's our other GreenStalk. And I've got peppers at the bottom. My favorite pepper is sweet banana peppers. My kids can come out here and just eat them raw. That's how I typically eat them as well, is grab a few for a snack, eat them in my salads, dip them in ranch. So since my peppers did so well in my other GreenStalk garden, I decided I'm gonna do more peppers in here and hopefully not have any issues with growing them in the ground like I did before. We've got a different variety of mixed lettuces, bok choy, kale. I even have, I forgot what this is called, but it was just really cool. I think it's pak choy. Anyways, I love purple if you've been following me for a while, so I wanted to pop a purple in here. I've got some lettuce I started from seed, more kale. So stay tuned, I'll give you some more updates on how these are growing. Also, this is where I hold my gardening workshops, back here under this tree. I put out tables and we do a little setup here. This is also my workstation. It's an absolute mess. We're gonna head into this garden here. Recently, I've wanted to plant more flowers in the garden, and I'm actually gonna go over and show you all the different flowers that I'm gonna start mixing in here. But these are called foxgloves, and our family took a trip to Alaska in 2020 and just fell in love with the way they can garden over there with as much sun as they have. And there are these beautiful plants. They look like little fairy houses. My kids love them, and of course I did too. So we decided, let's see if we can plant them and grow them here. So I'm really, really hoping that they will come to flower and they'll stay healthy. Over here we have some more celery. This is the same celery that I have over in my Vego beds. With the last freezes we had, we did get a little bit of damage on these. I did pull the little pieces off. As you can see, here's two of my tomatoes. I actually left these here just to see what they did. I'm trying to see if I'm going to get any new growth off of them. We did lose all 6 of our tomatoes. It was just way too cold. I think it held about 25 degrees for a couple hours here, which really did a number on our fruit trees, which I am putting a monthly video together to give you an update on that if you'd like to see it. And if I can remember, I'll put the link in the description below. This area here has just been full of weeds. What I'm gonna do is get in here and just remove all the weeds. And we've just got like this random flower and butterfly mix that we're just gonna spread all through here. So this is actually our kids' fairy garden area where they hang out and play, and they've got these little fairy garden items. This is actually one of them that they play in. It's totally a mess right now, but it's definitely fun. They get to plant their own succulents and take care of it, which they haven't. But either way, it's still a lot of fun. We have some Siberian kale here, which, as you can see, it's doing okay, but it's doing much better, and it's much nicer and greener and healthier in our Vego beds. Over here we have collard greens. It's called a Bates variety. It's been my favorite variety so far. We have onions planted in between here. I also have a Georgia Southern variety here. We actually just harvested some and made some last night. If I ever have some yellowing leaves, sometimes I'll just take them off and leave them on the ground. or if it's healthy enough to feed our chickens, they will go to our chickens. But that also helps kind of keep the weeds down, keeps the moisture in, and eventually will end up breaking down over time and add nutrients to the soil. Over here we've got some dwarf curly kale. I just harvested a lot of that and made kale chips for the family. We originally had some eggplants here. Even though we covered, the weather was way too cold. It destroyed them, though I do have to say I did cut a couple back just to see if they would come back. And if you see this, we do have some new growth. So with that said, here also you can see this one, there is some new growth. So if you have some damaged plants, do not cut them back. I just couldn't handle it. I wanted to go ahead and cut them back until your last expected frost date, which is actually today for my zone. Now that doesn't mean that it can't freeze in 2 weeks or a month from now, because we definitely, oh, here's a butterfly. We've definitely had some fluke years where I went ahead and planted, oh, it's so pretty. I went ahead and planted, and 2 weeks later we got a frost. So it took out all my okra, several other plants. So I just have an intuition this year, and I'm going to go ahead and start some seeds. If I have to bring them inside, I will. But either way, you can tell that it's possible for these to come back, even though they look absolutely dead. I can do that with the tomatoes also. It does have a little bit of green, but what I'm going to do, because it's already time to plant, I'm most likely just going to pull these out. Now over here, I went ahead and trimmed this back. This is our shooting stars eggplant that we have transplanted from the garden and put into a pot because we've had it for so long. And as you can see, we do have some new growth. These are perennials, so we did not want to lose this variety. It's so pretty and it's so good. Our kids love eating it fried or an eggplant parmesan. My garden is just ate up with weeds. We've definitely had not a whole lot of time to tend to it. I recently planted some ruby eclipse sunflowers. If you've been following me for a while, those were my favorite sunflowers from last season. So I saved some seeds, and I recently, well, I plan to sell them, but we're gonna go ahead and give another season, test them out. These are actually the seeds that I saved from my original flowers. So we're gonna see how they do. Over here we have some, it's called blue dazzling kale, which is actually more like a purple color. And they don't taste any much different than your typical dinosaur kale. We eat a lot of that in soups, cook it up, mix it with our greens. Kale is so healthy. I know a lot of people that will put it in smoothies. Kale is probably one of the #1 things in my garden that is a health benefit to our family, along with our blueberries, which I'll get to. And here are some onions here. And as you go through this garden, you can see that this garden is built up, the soil's built up much better than the one that's over here because it's much younger ground. Over time, we've been building this up with compost, chicken manure, different soil and additives. So even though we've been building it up, still we have trouble with nematodes, which I recently found a product I'll share with you here probably in another video that I've just started to use, and I'm very hopeful that it will help with that. I did find some curly kale. So I have a lot of dwarf curly kale in my garden, but I could never find just a regular curly kale variety. So I'm excited about this because that curly kale has been a great addition to our garden this year because it is new and we've never grown it. But I just love the texture of it. It makes great kale chips. It's kind of just bouncy when you cook down regular dinosaur kale. It's just kind of real, there's no bounce to it. Whereas this, it's just a whole different experience, and it's nice in salads as well. I also grew some mustard greens from seed because I know a lot of you guys are asking, why don't you grow mustard greens? It's a southern thing, and I just don't preferably like mustards, but again, everything tastes so much better when you're growing it yourself. So we're gonna give it a try. So I have a few plants here along with some mammoth sunflowers over there. Here's our carrots. We've got over here the kids every so often will take a peek at those. And I've got some more foxgloves that I popped in over here. And as you can see, this is where our beans were. The beans did not make it through the freeze. I didn't even attempt to cover them because I already had so much work on the farm taking care of the animals and the garden and the important things, that the beans had already given us so much of a harvest that I was okay with letting them go. I knew that we'd be replanting soon. I'm actually be planting more beans this week. So I'm not sure yet what I'm gonna do with these beans. The actual dead beans, I actually thought about leaving it there just to see if it would kind of help the beans kind of trellis up and over time break down. I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. So those did not make it. Now, as you can see, these are our blueberries and there's tons of flowers on them and new growth. When those 3 days of freeze came and frost, depending on what area you are in Florida or in zone 9, we had a ton of buds on our plants, which the freeze did take out, as you can see some of them here. But I feel like maybe some of the buds that were on may have survived and already had given off a blueberry. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology there, but I'm very hopeful for a good season of blueberries, even though we did get some damage on some of the flowers that were flowering. But you can see over here too, we have a ton of buds coming out on these plants. We did mean to trim these back this year, but we were a little late. I don't know if we were really a little late. It's just the temperatures got so hot and pushed everything into bloom, like it made it think it was spring. So by that point, we're like, we're just gonna let that be and see how things go. So we'll probably trim back next season in the fall. So over here, I had some longevity spinach and I thought it was completely dead. Here's part of it. I was actually gonna dig it up and replant some more longevity spinach because I did cover a lot of plants that I had potted. But now here's proof that don't pull it because it's already got so much new growth on the plant. So it's been really hard for me not to pull a bunch of stuff up. This is two different, we've got a purple and a regular green longevity spinach from a friend that gifted these to me. This is where I had my tomato plants and I actually just pulled them, and I want to show you something because if you were watching some of my videos and you know that some of my tomatoes were sick, I wanted to show you these roots. Now this is not normal for roots to look like that, which means we had some nematode problems. Now we were using some other stuff to treat our nematodes with, and obviously we just weren't keeping up with treating them, but we definitely had some sick plants. We'll talk more about nematodes in a different video. But not sure if I'm gonna replant tomatoes here yet, but we are staged and ready to go. And we'll just kind of see how things go. Over here, I've got some kohlrabi. I've been probably harvesting one every other day right now. And I just slice it up and eat it with salt as a snack in the middle of the day. We've got two more foxgloves here. Excuse me. And I've got some peas growing along here. And if you guys haven't noticed, I just started doing some gardening tips and gardening hack short videos. I don't know if you guys get notifications on those, but I've just been trying that out as I'm working in the garden and I'm doing something real quick that I feel like might be helpful to my viewers. I'll just get my phone out real fast and do a video of it. So they're under a minute videos. If you haven't seen them, go check those out because I do show you a tip using wood ash in the garden, coffee grounds, and different things. So I'm trying to do as much as I can to help you guys out. Oh, over here, this is our surviving collard green from almost 2 Novembers ago we planted. And it's the only surviving collard green or kale that I had after last summer, and I did not want to get rid of it because I thought, well, maybe this will grow into a tree. So I actually transplanted it from over here where that GreenStalk is to here. This is actually a shadier area, so I think it might survive a little longer. And we're just gonna see how long it will produce for and see if it will grow into an actual tree. And if anybody has access to a true kale tree that will survive our zone, please let me know, because I definitely want to get my hands on that. Over here we have 2 beets and a lot of weeds. Actually 3, 4 that I just really haven't done a whole lot with. When we originally planted beets, some squirrels or birds, something came along and ate those. Since the last video, the chickens have gotten into this garden. I've actually got them in their pen right now because they've been getting into the garden quite a bit lately. So what I'll do is I'll let them out when I pick up the kids from school about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Then I'll let them free range because that way my kids and I can keep them out of the garden. But we've had a lot of damage from the chickens. They actually ate a lot of new seedlings here, along with some of my cabbage and some of my sunflowers. So either way, it gives us space to grow some more. Over here, we've got some radishes. Look at that. Radishes are probably one of the fastest things that you can grow. They usually take about 45 days to harvest, and it is starting to rain a little bit. But they're real fun to grow. The kids love coming out here and harvesting them. And I'm gonna eat these on my salad today. And these are called icicle. Yep, icicle variety. I just thought they'd be cool and be pretty, so we tried the variety out. I think I've covered everything in this garden. Cabbages are doing great. I've already harvested quite a bit. I've been actually harvesting them young, like this size, which is absolutely fine. It feeds the whole family. They're so delicious. I can't explain to you how much food tastes so much different when you grow it yourself and you're not treating it with chemicals or pesticides, and you know what's in your soil and you're harvesting it fresh. It's all about the freshness for us. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and be sure to subscribe if you'd like to follow along each season. So I wanted to show you guys what I'm starting this month. I had a friend that gave me some passion fruits that were really delicious. We do have them growing wild on our neighboring property, but they're just not as good. And these ones she brought over were so tasty. I'm also starting some mammoth sunflower seeds, which I grow and harvest the seeds on my farm and garden here. So if you're interested in purchasing those, I do have them for sale on my website. They grow up to 9 to 12 feet tall. I'm also starting some moringa seeds. My moringa trees don't look so healthy from the past freeze, so we're going to start more just in case they don't survive. I had a friend hand me over some Madagascar beans, which we're going to add into our food forest. Also starting some more papaya because we lost them in our freeze. And there's some zucchini. We also have some cranberry hibiscus, but it's a different variety that a friend gave me. I'm also starting some summer squash, some butternut squash, Everglades tomato seeds, which I do have those for sale. Some little pumpkin seeds, which I have those for sale as well. I also am going to start some bush-like beans, and we're also going to plant, direct sow some more beans into our little fence area there. Another goal I have this year is to grow some more flowers. I actually want to do a tea garden and a butterfly garden, but I only have so much space. So I found these mixtures here of different bird and butterfly mixtures. So those should be fun for the kids. They also picked out this little zinnia packet here, so we're gonna try those as well. I thought I'd quickly show you guys my backyard barn garden or chicken garden because it looks so pretty right now. These are our 2 calves we recently separated from their moms, so they're coming over here to hang out. But anyways, this is actually just an old water trough that my husband brought home. He was tearing out a house and saw this beautiful vintage trough. It's all rusted up and pretty rough around the edges, so we didn't want to put it in the garden because we were worried it might cut up the kids. So I threw it back here and kind of made a little chicken garden. As you can see, they do come around here and kind of eat off of it. But look at how beautiful. We've got Siberian kale. I've got some dinosaur kale and then some collard greens in the back. I also added some tomatoes back here. I have some Everglades tomatoes, and I can't remember the variety here, but we actually lost both those tomatoes to the frost, and I went ahead and just replanted. That was actually a volunteer Everglades tomato. If you are interested in purchasing any Everglades tomatoes, I have plenty, so you can purchase those on the website. And over here is my little propagation station. It is an absolute mess. I've got plants for sale, and look at how pretty these guys are. These are the flowering vines that are my favorite. These are called Queen's Wreath. This is the one that comes, or that is over my entrance to the garden. And I had some friends that shared some trees that I'm putting together. I've got our compost bin back there, worm bin here, and then this is where I keep my potatoes. I'm actually just about to plant some sweet potatoes. I have regular potatoes here. Actually, my sweet potatoes and potatoes froze back, but then these guys started coming up again. So thankfully I didn't try to pull those, let them be. And that is it for my garden tour. Say hello. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future videos. I wanted to also thank you for supporting my channel by buying products on my website, sharing my video, and purchasing the products that I love and use in my garden. You can find all those items and discount codes and affiliate links in the description below or on my website. Thank you guys. I will see you next time.